So after we are introduced to our expendables for the book, we get a bit of a caper sequence. There are actually several huge differences between the book and the comic. Really, the book's version is actually a lot better than the comics version. In this one, we basically see Hicks just sort of bust in and shoot up the place and rescue Newt. In the book, he sort of sneaks around and is able to get through there fairly stealthily. And also, when he escapes the building, he uses sort of a spider string, basically. Really, all throughout the Aliens books, you see that humanity has finally been able to take advantage of spider silk. Now, in the comic, see them escape on this massive air sled thing. Well, after the excitement at the med center comes to a close, Hicks smuggles Newt onto the ship heading to the alien homeworld. Yeah, some rescue that was. But then again, that is a better fate than getting your brain fried.
Well, if I can keep it on the ground when I put that hammer down, then I'll be Texas bound and a-flying. I got my tin in the wind, let it all hang out again.
This is where the book really starts picking up. Now, this is where we see the idea of hugely powered corporations come into play. A company called Bionational decides that they want an alien for their bioweapons division. Okay, right there. What are they going to use the xenomorph for? In no book have I read have they ever really come up with a real practical application for a xenomorph. In the AVP PC game, they had what were called xenoborgs. And really, this thing is a 800-pound gorilla. All it is an alien with a high-powered laser cannon bolted onto it, meaning it really is no more useful than, say, a mech suit. They could just as easily mount said high-powered cannon on this thing. Now, I know what you're thinking. The cannon is so powerful because it's powered by the xenomorph itself. But still, you can get far more reliable performance out of a mech suit than you can this blazed-up alien. And besides, humans are far easier to obtain than xenomorphs. Now, in the end, all the xenomorph really is to the company is a bloody MacGuffin. And really, to everyone else, it's the primary antagonist. Now, outside of the xenomorphs, the main antagonist is this guy, Patrick Massey, a complete sociopath if ever there was one. To him, the job, whatever that may or may not be, is all. Nothing comes before the job. He believes this so much so that he killed his entire family after they saw a picture of a xenomorph. Also, you know what I'm thinking.
How'd you like to own a little bit of my foot in your ass?
This guy could have totally played him in Aliens Earth Hive, the movie. I mean, look, the comic illustration looks almost exactly like him. Now, Massey wields a massive fighting force made up of himself and a number of synthetics.
I prefer the term artificial person myself.
I've got to disagree with you there. These androids are really more in line with Terminators than they are with people. And besides, they're expendable models, so they're not really persons, are they? In addition to that, he also has a surprise for the Marines. I won't spoil it just yet, but here is a bit of foreshadowing. The Marine ship's name is the Benedict. In addition to the main alien excursion, there are also events taking place on Earth as well. Unfortunately, the events on Earth make the entire alien homeworld expedition completely pointless. Here is the gist of it. A number of people have been reporting alien-related nightmares. And also, they find a pilot that has been face-hugged. Now, where he came from, they never really say. But what we do get to see is a pretty decent sequence where he seemingly escapes Bionational and tries to go home before he dies. It's later revealed that the entire sequence was merely a delusion. Somewhat similar to the story An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, or in a science fiction vein, The Longest Fall. Later on, Bionational's laboratory is attacked by a number of cultists. These cultists basically see the xenomorph as a type of messiah. It's during this attack that a xenomorph queen is set free. Really? You're going to worship this thing? You know, that makes the machine cult from Warhammer 40k look sane by comparison. It's never explained how the cultists' leader even learned of the xenomorph's existence. But I, however, have a theory. Stay with me here. In the third novel, it's learned that the main alien queen in the galaxy can communicate over interstellar distances. Therefore, we could say that maybe she was waiting until the right time to influence weak-willed humans and thus start a massive chain of events that led to the Xenos taking over the Earth. Or it could be a plot by the jockey race. Or, more likely, it's just a plot hole. The Xenos spread across the entire planet like a zombie plague. Except, of course, Xenos are like an Eclipse-class Star Destroyer compared to an X-Wing in this case. Eventually, the entire Earth is covered in xenomorphs. And in addition to that, many of the off-world colonies also fall to the xenomorph as well. So with that major part of the storyline out of the way, let's get back to the characters that we actually care about. Now, if you thought Gorman was bad, Stevens is actually considerably worse. You see, when they were roused out of hypersleep, he learns of Newt's presence on the ship by finding that there is a +1 on his roster. So basically, he was doing this.
Adams. Here. Adamley.
Here.
Adamowski.
As the ship uses its real space engines to reach the aliens' homeworld, we find that Newt and Bueller are forming a very close relationship. We even get to see a repeat of the scene from Aliens, where Hicks shows Ripley the pulse rifle. Except here, this pulse rifle is a demo model. Now, just why a military ship would carry a demo pulse rifle on a highly sensitive, super top secret mission is beyond me. I guess it's for times like these, and really you can never be too prepared. Bueller basically rattles off what he can do and says that it's mainly good for close-in warfare, which I guess is rather believable, as these days marksmanship is out and spray and pray is in. And of course it should come to everyone's complete lack of surprise that Newt and Bueller consummate their relationship physically.
Ooh.
That's one thing I haven't mentioned. There are a lot, and I do mean a lot, of sex scenes in this series. In an SF book where the plot of the novel is killing aliens, why do we need to all of a sudden enter into some sort of romance style here? It's very jarring and rather unnecessary. One thing about Bueller that's learned later is that he is an android, so this romance is somewhat similar to Aliens.
You did okay.
I did.
Oh yeah.
So with that bit of awkwardness out of the way, let's get back to the fighting! Okay, first thing, we finally learn that Colonel Stevens is indeed a traitor, and has sabotaged the Marines by removing a vital component from their pulse rifles. Hicks is a little better off as he's armed with a little stun pistol. Unfortunately, our traitor colonel gets the drop on him. And then in comes Massey, armed with a rather familiar weapon, a 10mm Smith & Wesson, although in this case it's stated to be recoilless. How that works? I guess it has an internal inertial dampener. That of course seems like a pretty big waste to me, though. The only difference here is it's a 9mm and it doesn't have an inertial dampener. In any event, it goes to show you why you never really strike deals with sociopaths, because usually you will end up losing in the end. And Stevens finds this out in a rather hard way, as Massey shoots him in the head. But he couldn't have picked a better gun to do it with. A traitor's death, I suppose. Later, Massey reveals his fiendish plan. He's going to send the Marines in to the alien homeworld unarmed so that they can get face-hugged and thus provide him with specimens. One thing that you will learn is that Massey is a very theatrical individual and conducts the entire operation like you would imagine a Bond villain would. And it really makes you wish that this book actually became a movie. Also, there is a bit of a plot hole here. All of the Marines are androids, and yet when some of them are killed, no one seems to take notice. The white blood is a pretty dead giveaway, and even if they had red blood, the internals would have been different. So at any rate, somebody should have noticed. During the takeover, no one noticed Newt, which was good for her as she is now the Ripley replacement. Her campaign begins, oddly enough, in the kitchen, where she arms herself with the most powerful weapons known to mankind. A combination knife/vegetable peeler and a rolling pin. But in this case, it's a rolling pin of the future, using modern cryonics, rather than primitive wood. Now by this point, Massey is quite full of himself, wishing that this had been more of a challenge. Well, he is in for a rather rude awakening, as his android soldiers come under assault by flying xenomorphs. To be more accurate, it's supposed to look like this. Some of the androids' combat platforms are brought down, and for the Marines on the ground, this proves to be a rather advantageous development, as they are able to arm themselves with the androids' weapons. Now back on the ship, in a stunning display of badassery, Newt manages to bring down one of the androids with only those 2 household utensils. I guess the force was strong with this one. She also finds the missing pulse rifle parts as well. There is an eventual boss fight between Massey and Newt, and it's pretty good, so I won't spoil it.